Well, we're the folks, if everyone will take a seat, it's 6:30. We need to get started. Jane, will you sit down? You saw her reaction. She laughed. But she doesn't take direction from me. I saw that. Everybody would just sit for a moment, bow your head for a moment of silence before we start the meeting. I'm in. I want to welcome everybody. This is a special forum. Our regular forum is always 30 minutes before our regular council meetings. But tonight we felt the need to have a special forum to talk about the new bear ordinance that the town has passed. And let me see. My technical director tells me if I press this button that the slide will come up, but it's not. You know, they only let me think I'm in control. Why the town forum? 2022 bear season has started in North Carolina today. And it runs through November the 19th. And then again, December the 12th through January the 2nd, 2023. We had a bad experience last year in the community. And as a reaction or a taking action in regard to that bad experience we had last year, the town, primarily these two, Tom Widmer and what's your name? Mason Blake. Mason has delved into this thing for months now, and he's dotted his I's, he's crossed his T's, he's checked with the state. He's done a lot of background work, and he really is very well versed on it since he wrote it. So I'm going to turn it over to Mason now.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for your leadership on this issue. As the mayor indicated, last January or into February, we had several incidents here in Montreat that were very troubling. I got letters from a couple of friends, one who was afraid for his grandchildren possibly being in the playground when hunting dogs were very close to their location. Another whose nieces or nephews, I forget which, were actually between I guess a car they were packing in the house, and the dogs chasing a bear were running through. And still from another Montreater, a video of dogs in their front yard pursuing a bear. In what looks brutal, but it's the way nature works. In any event, I also learned that you know, that there was very little that our police department could do about the situation. And I started to study it, and I found out, well, there was very little that they could do. The laws we had or didn't have on the books weren't effective in giving our police force any ability to apprehend, punish, charge, whatever, fine anyone releasing hunting dogs in the town of Montreat. There was nothing. So we we embarked on a journey of involving a lot of people, certainly not just me, of really 9 months' time, looking at how do we regulate, what do we regulate, and what do we need to be doing ourselves? Not just regulating hunters, but what do we need to be doing about what we do? Tom was instrumental from the very beginning in expressing that this is a multifaceted problem. It'll take a multifaceted approach. And that's what we are hopefully going to explain to you tonight. I'm going to cover sort of the legal side, and I'll go over the new ordinances that we passed one by one. But there's more to it than just passing ordinances. And a lot of the responsibility for ultimately solving the problem is on us as Montreaters and reducing the number of bears we have in Montreat. Arrington Cox is leading a Bear Wise program, which we'll touch on, that it seeks to help to do just that. We've got some laws to help us do just that, and we're going to enforce those to help us do just that. But we will have a public safety problem until we reduce the number of bears in Montreat. In any event, the first ordinance that one of the 5 ordinances that we passed, several were new ordinances. In 2 ordinances we passed revisions to. The first new ordinance was a new ordinance prohibiting the release of hunting dogs in Montreat. What was actually happening, and I see Peggy Williamson back there, Peggy and Jim were up on Chapman Road, literally saw a hunter releasing a hunting dog from his truck on Chapman Road, chasing a dog in Montreat. And let me tell you what that was all about, as I found out much later. Here's actually what they were doing. The hunters would come in and they would ride, these hunters who were not members of the Bear Club. And let me just say from the beginning, none of these ordinances are directed at the Bear Club. They're directed at the wrongdoers, like the guys we're going to talk about right now, who basically did this. They came into Montreat. They had dogs in the back of their trucks, in their cages. They rode around Montreat, knowing that we have bears down here. And once the bear scent was caught and the dogs let them know that by their yelping. If they were in a right place to sort of do it, they would release one dog who would then start to move, chase the bear. The bear starts to move. If they see the bear moving in a location where they think they can move the bear to kill it, they release another dog and then another dog. And that's how they literally started out hunting, riding up around our streets. So the first ordinance prohibits the release of hunting dogs from a vehicle in Montreat, whether they let it out of the cage or they turn it off, let it off a leash that's tethered in back. Whatever they do, if you see anybody releasing a hunting dog from a vehicle in Montreat, he or she is breaking the law. And it's a serious law. It's a 3rd-degree felony. It also, which can be enforced by both a fine and imprisonment. We can also assess a very strong fine with it. The fine, and since this is the most egregious thing that we catch somebody red-handed doing, we have a very stiff fine. It's a civil penalty of $2,500. So if somebody lets a hunting dog loose in Montreat, they're going to have a bad day if we catch them. What? First offense. First offense. If anybody doesn't know, it's against the law to turn a hunting dog loose in a residential neighborhood. They don't deserve a warning. The second ordinance we passed, it was a new ordinance, and it was suggested by the head of the North Carolina Wildlife Conservation Organization, which is a trespass ordinance that's modeled after the North Carolina Property Owners Protection Act. And it basically says that it's unlawful for a hunter to go on another person's property in Montreat private property without permission. Now, they don't, and let me make it clear, hunters don't have an inherent right. No one has an inherent right to go on your property. If anyone walks on your property without permission, it's technically a civil trespass, but it's not a criminal trespass. You can't do anything. Now, if that person causes some harm, then they're liable for that harm. If they cause damage, they're liable for that damage. But that's a civil action. And that's just between you and whoever goes onto your property. But in this case, if somebody goes on to somebody's property to retrieve hunting dogs in Montreat without permission, it's a criminal trespass. In other words, they violated the law, not just the property owner's rights. And with one exception, and that exception is, well, there's a number of exceptions. We've tried to make this not mistakenly penalized behavior we don't want to deter is regular behavior. In other words, if there's just one dog involved, it's not a trespass, no matter what happens. So if you're walking your dog in your neighborhood, anywhere in Montreat, dog gets loose, it wanders into somebody's property, you can go on their property and you can retrieve your dog. That's the way it is now. That's the way it will be in the future. What we're after is where we've got 2 or more dogs, hunting dogs. Although we don't specify hunting dogs, it's only if there are 2 or more dogs. And it's only if there are 2 or more dogs in a populated area. So that if somebody, so 2 or more dogs in a non-populated area is a different story. But if you've got 2 or more dogs, you've got to get permission loose. You've got to go permission to retrieve those dogs unless the Montreat police are there. What we're trying to do is accommodate a cooperation between the police force and the Mount Mitchell Bear Club and any other people that want to cooperate with the police, so that if they see their dogs are coming into Montreat's neighborhoods, they can alert Chief Errant's department, and they can do that with a number that certainly the Montreat, rather the Mount Mitchell Bear Club will have. Call the police dispatch number. They will get our police there and hopefully be at a location so that when they get to that property, as long as the homeowner's not there and objects to them going on the property, then our police will not object to them going on the property, and there will be no criminal offense if they then go to it. And I'll just give you an example. You've got a neighbor, they're not there. You see hunting dogs coming. You call the police, or the bear hunters call the police and say, the police are coming. We've got bears that are coming into this residential neighborhood. We've got a bear we're chasing. He's going to this residential neighborhood. Our dogs are loose, and we're trying to control them, but they're headed there. If we've got a policeman on the property, we want to facilitate the hunters going on there and retrieving their bears without at the same time making sure the dogs, making sure the dogs are retrieved as long as there's no objection by the homeowner. And so that's what happens. Or if the homeowner's not home, an officer's present, they can go onto the property. It's also not a trespass if a hunter comes up, he walks up to your door to ask permission to retrieve the bear. That's obviously not a trespass. So there are a lot of exceptions to it, but the goal of the trespass ordinance is, in appropriate circumstances, that anybody retrieving their dogs on someone else's property without permission is guilty of a trespass. The third new ordinance we passed is one that's on Montreat residents, and that's prohibiting the feeding of bears. One of the things we found out through this process is that there are certain people feeding bears purposefully, intentionally in Montreat. There are other people effectively feeding bears unintentionally, but in a way that they have to know bears are going to get into whether it's dog food or bird food or garbage that they leave out, knowing that bears are likely to get into those materials. And so we have passed an ordinance now, which makes it unlawful to feed bears. And the way it's worded is, as you see on the slide, to provide anything edible with the intention of feeding, attracting, or enticing bears, or to store pet food, garbage, or other bear attractants that will result in bear feeding when they're known to frequent the area. So you just can't leave a can of bird food or dog food on your porch in a can that they're going to easily access. You can't just, if you're going to have a bird feeder, you've got to place your bird feeder in a way that, makes sense that the bear's not going to get to it. You have the right, you have the right to put a bird feeder out. And there's an exception. It says it's unintentional, but everybody needs to know it, and we'll try to make everybody aware that you just can't leave bird food out without taking it in, knowing that bears are going to get to it. You're feeding the bears. And let me just say a few things that sort of bear wise about that. One, the bears don't need the food. All you've got to do is look at all the acorns and the ground out there. There's lots of food. And this is the time of the year they need to eat the most, and God has provided them the most food to eat. And they're happy. They don't need anything from us. And secondly, we harm them when we feed them. It's not good for us. It's dangerous for us. It's dangerous for the bears. I mean, ultimately, what the bear will do is inhabit populous areas to the point where something has to be done that's not good for that bear. And ultimately there'll be so many bears here in Montreat that we have dangerous situations. I know everybody's heard about it. We just had not everybody, but many people have heard about it. We just had a bear growling at someone yesterday, I think, a mother with her 2 cubs. It's understandable. I got a note from somebody, they saw 5 bears up just this way yesterday or the day before. So there's lots of bears. The only way we can reduce the bear population is to quit feeding them. They're here for one reason: free food. It's sort of like when you're in a fraternity in college, that's what the bears are like. They're going to go for the free food. And we've got to take it away from them. So we have 2 ordinances. So those are the 3 ordinances we passed. You can't release a dog from a vehicle, hunting dog from a vehicle. You can't trust on other people's property to retrieve dogs. You can go on others' property for other reasons. You can go on public property to retrieve a single dog, but you can't go after two dogs or more that are loose on someone else's property without their consent. You can go up to the front door and ask, or unless the Montreat police are present to say, we don't object to you going there to retrieve your dogs. We also revised 2 ordinances. The first is a dog control ordinance. First dog control ordinance we had in the town of Montreat was in 1901. And it forbade using the same language, at large. It prohibited people from allowing dangerous dogs to be at large. The only difference then is the penalty was the dog died. After the dog owner was convicted, the dog was put to sleep, or probably then he was just shot in the head. But in any event, we've become much more humane, almost too humane. When you violate the ordinance prohibiting a dog being at large in Montreat now, the first violation, you get a verbal warning. The second violation, you get a written warning. And then only on the 3rd violation, it's a $100 fine. The 4th violation, $250. I think I remember right. Which is why there was absolutely nothing Chief Aaron could do when those people came into Montreat last January. All he could do is say, don't do that again. Here's your verbal warning. And what's worse is that the ordinance resets every year. So once you get 2 verbal warnings one year, you get 2 verbal warnings the next year. So it had no deterrent effect at all from people having their dogs loose in Montreat. Well, we didn't try to change the rules for everybody. What we're focused on is the hunters running multiple dogs in our residential neighborhoods. And so we've changed the penalties. We didn't change the ordinance, with the prohibition, but we've changed the penalties. If you've got 2 or more dogs in a residential neighborhood, the penalties have changed. You don't get a verbal warning. You don't get a written warning. You get a fine, first violation. Now, if it's a single dog, and that dog's at large, you still get a verbal warning. You still get a written warning. The law hasn't changed. If you've got 2 dogs and you let them loose purposefully or accidentally in an area that's not populated, let's say you're up on Rainbow Trail and you want to let your 2 dogs loose and let them run, you can do that. It's still against the law, but you get 1 verbal warning and 1 written warning. But if you've got 2 dogs, and particularly we're worried about hunting dogs, but we can't single them out in this instance. You've got 2 dogs and then a residential neighborhood loose in Montreat, you don't get any more warnings. So that's just it. And this penalty increases with the number of dogs. So that if you've got 5 dogs, it's a stricter penalty than if you have 1 dog. So I believe the first violation is $100 a dog. So if you've got 5 dogs loose, it's $500. If you've got 5, the second violation, you know, it's $250. You've got 5 dogs loose, it's $1,250. We don't want people to have second violations in Montreat when you've got hunting dogs running in our residential neighborhoods chasing bears. So that's the 4th ordinance. The last ordinance we've got is it relates also to Montreaters. As we went through all this process, we realized we had to demand that the citizens of our town comply with our trash ordinances, with our solid waste ordinances. We've got to put our trash out right, because it is, if you put out plastic bags by the side of the road, and Chief Aaron knows this better than anybody, you've just fed the bears. If you put, and that's just it. If you put trash out in a plastic container that's not bear protected, a bear-proof container, and you leave it out the night before or the day before, you've just fed the bears. Now, it means they may not get it every time, but I guarantee you this time of the year in particular, they're going to get it a lot of the time. And if you leave it out 2 or 3 nights in a row, it's definitely going to be, you're going to definitely have fed the bears. Well, what we realized as part of that is that we had to make people obey the rules, and there really was no effective penalty when people did not dispose of their garbage correctly. Again, we have had a series of verbal warning, written warning, etc. And so what we've done is create a whole new sort of regime of trash collection in Montreat, which is why you see we're giving away all the old trash bags. But the first part of that, two key parts of that, well, let's just say 3. The first one is we've modified the penalties to essentially give only 1 warning. You get 1 written warning, but otherwise, if you don't place your trash in appropriate containers, it's a violation, and you'll get fined with just 1 warning. Or secondly, if you put it in a non-bear-proof container and you don't put it out the day of, you put it out the day before. Again, and if you do either of those, you're effectively feeding the bears or inviting the bears to get in it. Either of those results with just 1 warning and a penalty. The second thing we did was decided, and we have implemented a new policy with respect to the convenience center, which most of you know is right back there, and it's had various iterations over the past 20 years or so. The convenience center up until now has been on a pay-as-you-throw basis. You had to buy trash bags to throw garbage in it. That's no longer going to be the case. The convenience center is going to be able to be used by any resident of Montreat or visitor or guest of a resident any day of the week. That's no longer, it's not a fenced area. You can go in and throw the bags basically 24/7. It says that 8 to 5 time period on the sign out there, but for the most part, you can throw it 24/7. And anybody that's leaving on a Saturday morning isn't going to be around until Monday, which is a lot of our renters in particular. They're Saturday to Saturday. They no longer are have the catch-22. They've got all this garbage. They've got nowhere to put it. What do I do? And if they don't have the knowledge of where they might find an open dumpster and sneak it in it, or something else to do with it, they have, what they've been doing is leaving by the side of the road in many instances, or leaving it in the cottage for somebody else to pick up and deal with. This gives the owner or renters, landlords, the ability to say, the tenant, here's what you do. You've got a place to leave your garbage. You can drop it off on your way out. It's 24/7. There is no reason anyone living, staying, or visiting in Montreat can't throw their trash away anymore. They don't have to buy a bag. They don't have to, there's no special hours. There's nothing. It's there. It's open. And it's been open for some time on the pay-as-you-go basis. What we had experienced problems in the past with that facility because of people from outside Montreat using it, throwing a lot of trash away that shouldn't be thrown. But we've got new signage out and security cameras. And as part of this new ordinance, we passed a prohibition of anybody who is not a citizen of resident of Montreat or a guest from using the convenience center. And if they use the convenience center, then there is a stiff violation to basically penalize them for doing so. So we believe now that we have a penalty on the book for someone who, and before we didn't have a penalty, now we've got a penalty on the book for someone who shouldn't be using the convenience center to use it. And we've got surveillance cameras, and we've got the ability for everyone to use the convenience center 24/7. There's no excuse for folks in Montreat not being able to effectively dispose of their trash. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom, because in addition to just the ordinances, we've got, as we sort of alluded to with the convenience center, a lot of other items that all work into this process. Tom?
First of all, Mason has been working on this tirelessly since last April. First, he was doing, actually since January, but for the first period of time, he was just doing research to see what was allowed, what was not allowed, what was right. So there's a front end planning aspect that was so important. And then he spent the next 6 months writing and rewriting and writing and rewriting, meeting with everyone, meeting with the council, meeting with the Bear Hunter Club, Mount Mitchell Bear Hunters Club, talking, the two of us talked with one of the rogue bear hunters, and I mean, that was a very interesting discussion, but I give an incredible amount of credit for how this thing has come together to Mason. There are some other things, though, that we've done in addition to the ordinances that we wanted to share with you and just tick those off for you. there is going to be, starting today, there is, in fact, an improved police presence and response. David has been working with his officers, been working very closely with Mason, been working very closely with the Bear Hunters Club as well, to not only understand and pass on that understanding of the new ordinances to the officers, but also to make sure, particularly during high season, which is towards the end of the bear hunting season, that there is a high level of presence. Dave, you want to just take a minute and share anything else that you you may have been doing?
One of the issues we had at the end of last year, that last week of 2021, with these knuckleheads running around with this sort of behavior, the police force was spread very thin at the time. We normally are anyway, running one officer per shift, so one emergency, one officer. So during these more crowded hours, again, there toward the end of December, we had a lot of folks in, with their families, a lot of rentals, Airbnbs, stuff like that. We just had, pretty good little population explosion there. So what we're looking at this year, during the particularly troubled time that we had last year, was trying to increase the amount of officers that are actually on shift during that time. So we'll be looking at some of our reserve officers, trying to coax them in and get as much coverage as possible.
Yeah. Many thanks to the chief and his staff for being on top of this and taking it seriously, and understanding what the importance of it is. Along with the police department, where we have either installed or will be this week installing security cameras by the gate that will take pictures of license plates. So we will be able to keep track of some of the bear hunters who may come in here and not check in, or some of you may see them, and you can call the chief and tell them you saw a North Carolina plate and it had a HCL or something in it. They can find that. So that will be yet a second line, and that, of course, it adds to our overall security as a community, not just for bear hunters, but for other reasons as well. And I think we can all feel more comfortable that way. Mason's already talked about the change in the waste and recycle disposal policy. We decided that if we're going to put that kind of a fine, well, we've got to be able to accommodate trash, particularly for people who leave on weekends and it's not open. So with that, we along with the ordinance, we lifted the policy that requires you to either use the green or the blue recycle bags that you buy, that we used to have to buy from Angie right here in the town hall, and they would be tossed in one of the two sets of dumpsters over there. Now, no town bags are going to be required at the convenience center. And we're giving away, Angie is very happy, and so is Barry, about giving these bags out while they last. We are really recommending that if you rent your house, or if you have a lot of gas, you get these bags because it will remind them of the special nature of things. We also have and Mason, as well as Tim alluded to it, a relationship, a partnership, if you will, between the town, the police department, and the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club. If you see a truck or vehicle that has this sticker in the back window, they're a friend of ours, and they have been meeting with us. They know all the rules. They have essentially registered themselves through their club to the police department, and we know them. If you do see a truck that does not have one of these stickers in the back of it, be on the lookout for any nefarious behavior on their part, and do things accordingly, which we'll talk about in just a moment. In addition to that, you all know that Arrington organized through Land Care a Bearwise presentation. That recording is available, by the way, if you want to learn about the 6% growth of the bear population per year in North Carolina, and a lot of other good information. The other thing that we're going to be doing, as Mason had alluded to, is that this is not just an issue of ordinances. It's an issue of communicating. That's why we're having this forum tonight. And we will be communicating with all people who own property here and get a water bill. We're going to send out all of the information that you just received tonight, along with that magnet and a letter telling them essentially in a short version of what you heard tonight. So there's really going to be no excuse for people not knowing what's happening as residents here in Montreat. Now, let's talk about your rights and your responsibilities as residents. You have the right to not allow hunters to come onto your property without your permission. If they have loose dogs on the property, you have already heard Mason talk about that ordinance, and you can give them that permission if you choose to, or you can contact the police department through that telephone number that's in item number 2 there, which is actually a dispatch number to the county, and they will get in touch with the MPD very quickly. You have the right to call the police. The Montreat Police. Do not dial 911 because it'll go nowhere. Your call to the dispatch will be much quicker. And you can ask for assistance for any bear hunter related or hunting dog issue. You also have the right to take pictures, take photographs, take videos of vehicles, license plates, incidents, individuals, and then share that with the police department. Be careful. You don't want to be in their face. As the chief was talking to me the other day, he said, you know, one innocent person can confront someone who has done something, and it escalates, and then you've got 2 parties that are at fault. So use your common sense, keep your distance, but definitely do take photographs and license plate numbers and so forth, and share that. You have that right. You also have the right to feed birds responsibly, but not to attract bears. And you also have the right to deposit trash and recycling, as I just mentioned, in the town's convenience center, just on the other side of the creek. And that is open 24/7. Now, what responsibilities do you have? You have the responsibility to contact the police if you see anyone releasing, following, or using hunting dogs in the town, within the town limits. Also, contact the Montreat Police if you see a truck loaded with hunting dogs that is not a member of the Mount Metro Bear Hunting Club with a sticker on the back, just as a precaution. That doesn't mean they're bad bear hunters, but just as a precaution. You also have the responsibility to prevent bears from getting into your trash. Mason has already gone over that ordinance, and please read that and take it to heart. You also have the responsibility, if you rent out your home or you have people who use your home regularly, to inform them of these trash ordinances and regulations, and the disposal, especially the convenience center that is available to them to avoid fines. You also have the responsibility within that to ensure that the instructions that you leave for your renters are up to date. This past summer, I was walking my little dog Rosie, and it's a Friday morning, and I saw this woman putting plastic bags out on her driveway, and guess what? What do you think happened on that? Not up to date information that the owner of the house had left for renters, had not updated that there was not Friday pickup anymore, and not updating it to say you can't put bags out. You also have the responsibility to tell other homeowners or renters about this ordinance, because guys, that's the only way we're going to get the bears out of here and back up in the hills where they belong. And you also have the responsibility to be responsible in locating your bird feeders in such a manner that to keep it out of reach of bears. Kitty has one at her house that's hanging from the gable way out. And it's what, 15 or 20 feet off the ground. The squirrels get to it, but the bears don't. And if you do have one that the bears can get to, you have the responsibility to bring it in every evening. So what do you do if you are involved in a bear hunter or a dog incident? Let me pass that over to Mason.
You did not get this magnet, please get one before you leave and put it on the refrigerator. I think we probably all grew up watching National Geographic specials on TV. And whenever they were in Africa and had, you know, animals chasing animals to kill them, it was always with a zoom lens and they kept well away from it. There was a reason for that. It's dangerous. If you find yourself in a situation where you've got hunting dogs chasing bears, it's not a safe situation. That's why we've passed all these ordinances. It is a dangerous situation, particularly dangerous for, well, it's a dangerous period for, it's dangerous for a big strapping guy. If you've got 6 hunting dogs chasing a bear, bad things can happen. So the first thing to do is in number 1 here is stay safe. Don't get close to what's going on. Back off, get at a distance, and get help. The first, number 2, is just that. Quickly call the police dispatch line. The number's on this magnet, which is why it's important to keep the magnet handy. You're not gonna memorize that number, but they do know that the chief has made sure it's the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department. It's their non-emergency dispatch number. They are well aware they're going to be getting bear-related calls from Montreat. They will immediately get in touch with Chief Arendt's office, and our local police will know what's going on from them very promptly. The third thing you need to do is, as Tom related, if you've got your cell phone handy, pull it out, and if you can do so without antagonizing, without getting close, really, without getting close at all, and without antagonizing the situation if it's getting out of control, but take some pictures. Take a license plate. Take a picture of the hunter. It's not going to really, and take some picture of the dog, but we're not going to bring the dogs into court. We're going to bring the hunters into court. Don't really get into any kind of confrontation with the hunters. I mean, your best, one of the reasons we want our police involved in these incidents. We want you to call them right away. They'll get there as soon as they can. Yeah. Good. But wait for the police to get there. Stay back. Don't confront the hunters. Tom and I talk with these guys. They're not the sharpest tool in the kit. They don't think the way you and I think. And you're not going to do any good. And instead you're going to create a problem, and most importantly, dangers for yourself. Again, they don't have the right to be on your property, but don't run up there and challenge them. It's enough you didn't give them permission. You call the police and let Chief Arendt and his folks handle it. That's the way to do it. And if you, and afterwards, or if the police didn't come, you just saw something happening, write it down. Make a contemporaneous note of the incident while it's fresh in your mind. And we've got an email, a special email address, bears@townofmontreat.org. Record your experience. If you attach a get really techie and attach an email from your camera, you can do that. And send them in. That will be helpful. Let me make just two points that I know one I overlooked. And one is in our ordinance on trash, property owners are responsible for their tenants and their guests. Fines are going to be imposed when people don't throw their trash away the day they're supposed to, or when people throw their trash away in plastic bags when they're not supposed to. And the owner of the property will be held liable. Somebody who's gone back to their church in Valdosta or wherever, we can't get them. We can't punish them. We can't educate them before they get here. We've got to rely, if you're going to be leasing or renting your home in Montreat to someone, to make anybody that stays there aware of the rules and regulations and aware that they follow those rules and regulations, and or make sure the management company you've engaged makes them aware of those rules and regulations and checks up on them afterwards. Or otherwise, you need to check up on them. If your guests are leaving on a Saturday, you need to go by sometime Saturday and make sure they haven't left the trash out in plastic bags. And if they have, you need to put them in your car, take them and dump them over here in the convenience center, because otherwise you're feeding the bears. You're collecting your rent, but you're feeding the bears and you're creating a dangerous situation in Montreat or contributing to one. Yes, that's right. So, and the last thing, I want to just say, the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club has been very good to work with. There, as Tom said, they're very responsible people. All the folks we've dealt with are very responsible. And you need to know that you may not like bear hunting. Some members of the public may be a little squeamish about it, but it's actually good for the bears. The bear population is going to be better off in the long run if the population is managed. Right now, the population is growing out of control. It won't do that for long. At a point, the bears will start suffering. And so hunting is managed hunting, not just hunting, period, but managed hunting is good for the bear population, good for their overall survival and for the spread of bears through other environments. So, you know, this is not an anti-bear hunting effort. It's a pro-safety effort. That's what we've sought to do, and hopefully that's what we've accomplished. Okay. Any comments, questions?
Oh, I know. Mason, you have done a fabulous job. I've got my writing teacher's voice on. Now, thank you so much. You have done a fabulous job.
Well, thank Tom Widmer too. Tom has been instrumental from the very get-go and done just as much work as I have.
Y'all have done a super job.
He really has. So.
I would just like to say something about the dispatch number. That number is not just you, that's numbers used whenever you need to be in touch with law enforcement. And I recommend that everyone have that number in their cell phone so they'll have it there.
Very good idea. By the way, it was Jane's idea to put together a mailer that we send out with a water bill to everybody to make sure we communicate this throughout the community.
The only thing, am I on?
Yeah.
Okay. The only thing I haven't heard this evening that I was looking for was an ongoing intent by the town to notify residents when the bear seasons are on. There may be other things that we need to know, but we particularly need to know when bear seasons are happening.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah. Oh, I'm asking that the town make an ongoing provision to notify residents when bear season is on.
And we can do it every year.
Yep.
What we'll do during this season is continue to put little reminders in of things that we've said tonight, things that are in your handouts as well.
Thanks. Thanks to everybody. You've done a fabulous job. My question is, we understand that the Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club has been working closely with you, but what about the rogue bear hunters? How are they being made aware of all this?
They're all in communication, but to believe it or not, and you know, you don't know. This is not firsthand information, but sort of through the grapevine, we've heard that they've sort of taken our passing these ordinances as a challenge, and have at least threatened in comments they've made to third parties. And again, all this is hearsay, but threatened to target coming right back into Montreat and hunting in our residential neighborhoods again.
Which Chief Aaron and his staff have taken as a challenge.
And Chief Aaron has, yes, warned them in response. I won't talk for the chief, but Chief Aaron has responded to that information with information back to them about the manner in which they would be dealt with if they arrived in our town trying to do that. And he was very forceful in his description of how they would be accommodated.
And let me warn you about something else too. On the convenience center, that is for bagged trash and recyclables only. It's not for old grills or mattresses or stuff like we used to get in the others that the town crew had to dive in there and unplug the thing before it'd work again. So that's all it's for. And believe it or not, you carry a mattress up there and throw it in, you're on candid camera.
And part of our ordinance prohibits residents from, or rather requires residents to abide by all posted regulations back there, which include just what the mayor said. It's bag trash.
Could David or somebody? Can you hear me now? Close? Right here. Well, I was hoping the chief or somebody on council can give us a little scenario. Where are these rogue bear hunters? Do they just come up from the ridge and come down into town? How do we even spot them?
They live in Black Mountain or in the area, and they just decided that they wanted to hunt up here.
With guns?
Well, sure. That's why it's called hunting.
But I thought that was not legal either.
You can't prohibit hunting. You can prohibit
prohibit
discharging
hunting.
firearms in Montreat. But they run their dog, the idea is to chase the dogs up over the ridge here or some other areas, and they will shoot them when they're out of the Montreat city limits.
But they will shoot away from houses. I mean, they have that much sense. They're not. Are you sure?
No,
They're not allowed to, but so what? But they shoot away from the,
Would it be helpful?
Kitty, get the mic. You need the mic so they can record all this.
the way it works, it's a little brutal. I'll explain. The dogs tree the bear. The bear's up in the tree. They shoot the bear out of the tree. So they're not pointing at a residential.
my puppy.
Should we be aware of their rules, or do they have something that we could read or go online? I had at one time several cases of knowing that there were the good bear hunter people here. And they came up our road and then they went, I could tell that they were very interested in getting up the trail that would go to the old reservoir off of Swanee Drive.
And the bear came down. They brought the bear down because they shot it. So I'm assuming they were out of the town limit at that time. But can you bring the bear through the town to their truck? Yeah. So you'll see dead bears coming down to your, they smell, they really smell.
Let me just make a comment, and it's something that Mason said. This is an age-old practice which is used, that the state uses this way of hunting to control the bear population. The bear population at 6% means that it will double in 12 years or 13 years. So this is the only way to control it.
One of the things that I learned when we had that presentation a month or so ago was that the North Carolina Wildlife Department will not relocate these bears. They're not going to pick them up and take them somewhere else or release them on the other side of the Georgia line. They don't do that. So they're ours.
And the better we feed them, the more we're going to have.
I've always wondered about the rogue hunters running the bears up to where they can shoot them. Where can they shoot them? If they get them on, can they shoot them on the Mount Mitchell's property? Mount Mitchell Gun Club property?
That I don't know, Kitty, but I'm sure they could shoot them anywhere. You know, as long as they tree. The problem with the rogue hunters last year is those bears never treed. The bears kept running. They never treed. So they didn't have an opportunity to shoot them in a residential area, but they ran them through a residential area. It's unusual that a bear will not tree, but it happens. You know, they don't always run up a tree.
The Mount Mitchell Bear Hunting Club owns 1,300 acres right up off of the toll road runs through their property as well. And they do hunt in that area, but then there's Pisgah National Forest right behind it and another national forest. And that's all game, fair game property for bear hunting.
Is it fair game or sport to bait these bears? I've heard that they lay out garbage on the top of these ridges to bait the bear. That's not sport.
No, but it's allowed. You can bait bear, you can bait deer.
You
You
can
can
bait
bait-
quail, but you
Well,
better not get caught.
well, yeah, a dove field and a quail, and a dove field usually they'll catch you
Yeah.
if you bait it. But you know, if you collect your corn in a dove field very haphazardly, they can't get you for that. But if you go out there and open up bags and throw it out, then yes, it can. And I've never, you know, quail are going to go to cornfields and millet fields and other fields where they can get natural, get grains. So, you know, that's really not baiting. But deer and bear, yeah, they bait them.
And legally they can bait the bear.
I wouldn't be going to get your roast off a rib up a ridge up here. Anybody have anything else? Thank everybody for coming. And again, Mason, thank you for all the hard work that you've done, and Tom for all the hard work that you've done. And remember, we have a lot of responsibility in this community as citizens to do the things that we know are right to do to help stop feeding the bears and to take care of our citizens. One of the things, Tom, we debated this thing for over an hour last week. And, you know, it's a lot of good points on both pros and cons of passing this ordinance. But one of the things that Tom said, which was very, very important, I think, and it stuck with me, that our responsibility as commissioners in this town is the safety of the people of Montreat and those visiting and living here. So I thought that was very apropos, Tom, and it's really stuck with me, and it's the bottom line of everything we've done. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I have a motion from Kitty Fouché to adjourn. Do I have a second? Who was that? Jane Alexander. Have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. It's pretty good to adjourn it when I never called it to order.